All right. So, any big questions, concerns from last night's homework?
No. Oh my god.
Because we are changing gears today, again. And I want to have a conversation while we wait for some of your peers to get here and while people get ready to learn. Sorry, I'll get out of the way of the graph paper. So we take these state tests. April, like not the first week of April because that's next week, but the week after that. So effectively, we have 2 days left this week, 5 days next week, and 2 more days the week after when you're taking language arts tests and you still have math class. We have 9 math days essentially until you take these tests. So my question to you becomes, can we continue, and I'm going to talk to the other class about this, can we continue learning as much as we can each day and like not take masteries, or maybe a small one on Friday just to check some percent change information, just like a real small, like 2 or 3 question one, and just try to get as much learning in before we do that? Or, and this comes down to a trust thing, can I like not trust you guys to be doing the practice, and do I need to give you a mastery so then you have a revision to work on, and like that kind of forces you to make sure that you know what you're doing, or you stack up revisions and mastery, like right in math. So does anyone have opinions on what, like, because then we would still need to take a mastery or 2 after we've done with the state tests, but I kind of think I'd rather teach you as many days as possible before the tests.
Yeah.
So does anyone have opinions? Like, I want to have like a conversation about this. Eva?
Can we do all of the lessons and like learn them and do the homeworks, but then not take the mastery, and then after the state test take the mastery?
Yeah, my concern is I have a lot of people that I don't think are keeping up in homeworks. And guys, for any of you that might be a little behind in homework, I would prefer that you do the current night work to check if you understand what we did in class, and then circle back and do old stuff, right? So if you're behind in homework, please hear me when I say, like, I'd rather you be doing the current night homework to check if you learned what we learned today, and cycle back to the old ones if you can. Yeah.
What's today's date?
The 27th. All day long. Other opinions? So really my question is, can I trust you guys to keep working on your practice work without giving you a mastery, like without that impending? And then like a couple weeks from now, we'll have to catch up on some mastery work. So my thought was, when we have that Wednesday, Thursday that we take our math tests, then that Friday, debating whether we would do the mastery that Friday or whether I might give you guys the day completely off, but then we'd probably then on that following Monday and maybe then that Tuesday have to do some mastery work for us to get those grades into math, right? Because we'll be lacking some grades in math. So on the coattails of that, if you haven't turned in your homework from last week, please do so. I'm going to start calling kids over during A-order extensions and trying to figure out what's going on and just check in on, like, do you need help or do you need time? I get it if you need time. That's fine. But if you need help, I want to help you. Okay, so if you are struggling, please come see me. If you just need time, I get it. You guys are busy. But we'll start to slow down. You'll feel it. We'll start to slow down in your classes. Pretty much all of them will start to kind of ease off. But we need you guys to keep your foot on the gas to get everything finished up while we start to kind of ease off. We've been doing a ton of proportion work this year. I'm struggling with this Sharpie because it doesn't have a thing on it to stop it from rolling. We've been doing a ton of proportion work this year, and that's all we're doing today. And depending on how we do today, we might do more proportion work tomorrow, or we might just move on to other lessons of content that we want to squeeze in before you get to the test. When we look at a proportion like this, there are 2 distinct ways to solve it that both of them are right. Sorry, that needs oriented. So I want you to talk with your partner, teammates, or yourself, and try to think up 2 ways to solve this. Okay. Excuse me. It's like, if you have one way to solve it, great, good. That's your goal, but I want you to try to figure out a second beyond just what you think of immediately. Take 2 or 3 minutes to talk about that. If you think you get done with 96, you can move on to 97. I'm going to put it on the TV because I need to reorient my smartboard.
Does cross dividing exist?
Cross multiplication does exist.
So no cross dividing?
Cross dividing is, well, you can make a equivalent fraction. So I don't know what you mean by cross dividing, but we could divide here. See some pencils moving. I don't think we probably need calculators on this one. By the way, to abbreviate pounds, use LBS. Now, Joey, I'm going to pick on you for a second.
Okay.
You were just asking about division. Why?
Because if you divide everything by 10, it doesn't give you some like crazy decimal thing.
If I divide everything by 10 now.
Well, yeah. Because if you divide if you divide 10 by 10, you get 1.
Okay.
If you divide 3 by 10, you get 0.3, and then if you divide 7
Yeah,
by 5,
bumps over. So we could bump all the decimals, but I don't know how that would still help me solve for x easily.
use small numbers.
We do have smaller numbers then. That might be easier to work with. We're going to be using a decent amount of random cards today. So remember, you can try to pass, but I'm probably going to ask you a question if you try to pass. Ava, do you have any thoughts here?
No.
Brody?
Well, if the denominator increases next, we gotta find something to increase it.
Okay, what do you mean, find something to increase it?
Find something to multiply that will increase 750 to 10.
So Brody's saying one way we can solve this is ask yourself, what is the multiplier? Please go ahead and show that arrow on your work. If we don't know what to multiply by, going this way, what do we do, Riley?
Divide.
Divide going that way. So if I do 10 divided by 7.5, I'm going to get like 1 point something, right? Because I know
One
it's
and 1/3.
1 1/3, so 1.3 repeat. Now that's kind of gross, but what that means is I could multiply by 1.3 repeating, or 4/3. If you want to make your life easier, this would be nicer as a fraction if we just write it as 4/3. Now, Ivan, if I try to push another way to solve it, and I'll give you a hint, that I want to work backwards before I work forwards. Can you think of another way that would involve working backwards first? Maybe a number that would nicer go into 10? It's okay if you don't. I'm just going through cards. Casey? Do you know any way we could work backwards before we work forwards?
You could divide the 750 by 3.
I could divide this fraction, because not just the 750, I could divide both of these by 3 and get 1 pound costs what? If 3 pounds cost 750, what? 250, right? 1 pound costs $2.50. So, how can I go from 250 to 10? Times 4, right? So if I go this, well, what's our x then? Our x is 4, because we also then go from the 1 and multiply by 4. So the way we've been doing most of the year, where we try to figure out what we multiply by, that'll always work, but it's not always nice. Sometimes it's a whole lot nicer, especially if you're trying to work without a calculator, to work backwards before you work forwards. Now, can you please rewrite what I have in blue? Please, 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 because we're going to look at one more method that always works. So please rewrite 3 over 750 equals x over 10. Now, there are some situations that are terrible. You with me? And now this one's not terrible, right? We just solved it in a way that was pretty all right. But if it's really messy and you can't figure out anything else to do, and maybe you forget or can't figure out this, there's one last method that will always work. And when you guys are taking the state test, this is part of the reason why I'm going to have blank paper all around my room, is all my posters in here are essentially cheat sheets for you, which you can't have, available during the test. All year, this poster's been up about solving proportions. But we don't take that method unless we need to, because that doesn't really help our mathematical thinking, because it's just like a process that we just wham, bang, boom, go through. We can always cross multiply, which means we multiply diagonally there, and we multiply diagonally here. So please put circles around those if you would, or something that on your paper you see where. So we get 750x equals 30. Jalen, what's attached to x and how right now? 750 is by what? What operation? Yeah, but we diagonally add, subtract, multiply, divide. What did we do? Multiplied, right? How do we undo that? Divide. So if we divide by 750, and guys, this method always works no matter how messy or complicated your numbers are. And this will still get us 4. So now you have 3 methods you can take. You can cross multiply like we just did. You can do what we've been doing all year and say, what's my scale factor to go from one side to the other? Or work it backwards, make it easier, and then come forwards with a scale factor. Cool? Ava.
Okay, I have a question because I've been confused on this.
Yeah.
So after you divide, how do you put them together? Do you just add them together?
What do you mean, how do you put them? What are you talking about,
Like
them?
when you divide 750 by 750, that's 1. And
Yes.
30 divided by 750, then what do you do?
That's 4.
So that comes out to be 4. This math, I didn't do it, but if you grab a calculator and just did this math, it's 4. So one thing that we want to remember is there is always kind of this imaginary line down the middle of my problem, keeping left and right side separate. So whatever we do on left side, we do on right side. When we cross multiply, this is just making a new equation. This is the same equation. It's just a different way to write it.
Yeah, but wait, so if you, every time that you do the cross multiplication,
Yeah.
and then you get the 750, then you have to divide 750 by everything.
Yeah.
And so then that always is going to be 1 whatever you divide.
Well, so this, yes, this will always be 1 because it's a number divided by itself. So it's 1x.
Okay.
And we want 1x because we're trying to solve for what is 1x worth.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then when we do this over here, it's not as nice. It doesn't come out to be 1. So it's 4.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, there. So, and if it helps you, draw that dotted line straight down the middle. Move on to 97. Try any method you want, whatever you think is effective.
Do we always divide?
Pretty much. After cross multiplication, you'll pretty much always have to divide. Yeah, good question from Riley. Do we always divide? If you cross multiply, you pretty much will always divide. Again, there are multiple ways to solve this one. I believe that person's name is Graham. Just an interesting spelling. Now this happens. Ava, you babysit, right?
Yeah.
So, and I knew that because Ava's Discovery Day involved making some cards for her babysitting service. So if you have younger siblings or whatever, maybe tell your parents Ava will potentially watch them unless they're heathens.
Oh my god.
So if Ava wanted to be able to babysit for shorter amounts of time, what? I'm trying to advertise your business.
No, it's okay.
It's a free plug. You got a commercial right on YouTube.
That's pretty sure.
If you only tell people an hourly rate, they would like have to choose what they pay you or just multiply by the hours or whatever. So maybe Ava decides to say, I charge this much every half hour. Hey Jalen, you with me? Okay. Let's say, like, why are we just now opening our book? So let's say Ava decides to charge $4.23 per half hour, which is a complicated amount. I would probably just say go to 5. But if we go with that, how much would she make for babysitting for 40 hours total?
That's a lot.
Dive in. I'm gonna be quiet for at least a minute.
Oh snap.
I would be leaving at like 2 in the morning.
No, you did.
Okay.
Whenever it's read out, my I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
I'm gonna go through our methods backwards. So like what we just did, but the reverse orders. Can anyone walk me through the cross multiplication? Any volunteers?
I can try.
Joey, walk me through cross
I might
multiplication.
be vulnerable. Okay, so you're gonna take, yeah. Okay, so and then 4.23 times 40 gives you 169.2.
So guys, if you cross multiply, you pretty much have to have a calculator.
Wait, this is
There's pretty much no option. I'm gonna color code this to help make more sense. So Joey's walking me through cross multiplication. I'm assuming that's what you would tell me to do next.
Yeah.
Some of your teachers, by the way, guys, this might activate your brain, would call this the butterfly method, because when you draw the circles, it ends up looking like a butterfly. Now, this is where the answer to whoever asked, do we always divide? This is an exception to the rule. Joey, can I finish this without dividing?
Yes.
What could I do? Multiply by? Ooh, not half.
what?
Multiply by, how do you turn half into 1?
2.
Double it,
Yeah.
right? If we double on both sides, I get, okay, x is 3.
That's not a reasonable
Why'd
amount.
you-
Disgusting number.
Why'd you double it?
3.
We had half of x.
3.
We can turn half of something into a whole. Hey guys, I got side conversations and I don't think you're talking about the math. And I'm trying to help Isaac make this connection. And I bet some of you are wondering this too because this is different. We could divide by a half, but division by a fraction ends up telling us to keep change flip. If we actually try to do the process, dividing by a half is the same as multiplying by 2 because we need to double the half to make it a whole 1. Does that make sense? Because we have half, we can double and make it whole. So then this comes out to be 300 what?
38.4.
And because it's money, put a second decimal point. Because it's money, put a second decimal place. Put that penny's place in there.
I didn't do it right.
Now, this slide has a big gap in the middle. Can anyone help me maybe figure out what I might be doing with this fraction in between getting to here?
I don't know.
Kevin, we haven't talked much.
The red lines are multiplying the original fraction by 2,
Why?
because in the middle that would be the original hour. Like
Yeah.
the amount of money per hour, not power.
This is Ava's original amount she charges every hour. Now, I hope you charge more than that. What do you charge?
I normally do it like whatever the parents are comfortable paying me.
So my niece and nephew are in town, or my nephews are in town. If I offer you like $20 an hour.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of money.
If that's
It's
what you're-
not really a lot.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Take
but,
care of
so
your
that would get it. That
smart.
would you'd watch 2 kids for $20 an hour.
Yeah.
846 is not much, guys. This is like what you would get paid if you go to get a job at like McDonald's or somewhere.
Wow.
That's like minimum wage, which is fine. But like, if you're doing a service that is a specific service, not everyone wants to watch children. You can kind of set your price where you want. If I was setting your price, I'd tell you to do like $10 or $15 an hour, probably. 10 or
My mom doesn't even give our official babysitter $15.
Oh, I don't have kids. Apparently, I don't know what babysitters should make. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just totally wrong.
Charge like $100 for like 4 hours.
Well, okay, you got to start cutting deals. As you watch them for a long time, you can like, make deals. Or if they go to bed, like charge less then.
Yeah.
So then, guys, I hope we can all see that to get from 1 to 40, sorry, my eyelashes keep jumping in my eye, we would just multiply by 40.
Yeah, they're just jumping around.
They are.
I didn't know.
Hey, I'm just trying to make your middle school experience enjoyable. You know, you'll look back and be like, oh, that goofy Mr. Hudson actually kind of made it go by at least not so painful. And then if I want to jump straight from a half to 40, what do I have to multiply by?
2.
Not 2. 80.
Are you dumb?
Careful, you were thinking back to the last one where you just wanted to make 1.
Wait, we're doing a new one?
Yeah, we're doing a new one.
Wait, was the answer x equals 0.003?
No,
I think you divided instead of multiplied or something weird.
yeah, she multiplied, then she divided after multiplied.
This is our answer, 338.40.
Why didn't we? Oh my god.
Aiden, can you make sure she knows what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, can you double check that? All right, moving on. Yo.
Austin Moore, please report to the office. Austin Moore.
All right, if we want to help Graham figure out how many hours you gotta work. Hey, can you chill? Like, and this is for everyone, but like when people get called to the office, don't react. You don't know what it's about. Like, for all you know, they could be getting bad news. Like, I have no idea what that's about, but like when you react like that, it's not cool. Like, or they could just be going down, like, I take a heart pill every day, which I have forgotten, so when I start this problem, I'm going to take my heart pill. But y'all can't do that alone. You got to go to the office for that. So, simmer. Getting called to the office is not a bad thing. Maybe he just wants to hang out. All right, Graham wants to know how long. Mr. Scher's weird. He might just call a student down to, like, pick their brain about something. Dr. Gupta did that. One of our head people in Worthington schools grabbed a bunch of students and asked them questions about, like, what do you want in a principal?
Oh, so the vice superintendent.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I think he's the dean, is what they call it.
He has AirPods.
Yeah, I
He does have
that.
AirPods.
What the heck?
It
No,
weirds me
students pay
out.
attention
'Cause
to.
they come here a decent amount. All right, I want you to dive in and try to figure out how we set up this proportion to help Graham solve how many hours it will take to work up to $1,000. Set up this proportion to help Graham figure that out. I gotta use a mirror real quick. It's not funny, my eye hurts. You've never had an eyelash in your eye?
Wait, you had your tongue out.
When I drum, I bite my bottom lip. And then I just do weird things.
No, it when you curl your eyelashes so your eyelashes don't face your eyes.
Aiden, you're so rude. Boom! Why are you doing that? That's gross.
Now, Ava can charge people by the half hour if she wants.
Yes, I can.
But on your card, or when you advertise it, most people talk about what they charge by the hour. So they would say each hour, right? So we talk about the each hour, 846. Please write this down if you don't have it down. I see a lot of papers with not very much work on it. Guys, and I'm trying to be a little bit casual with class because I know we're in fourth quarter. We've been here forever. We're getting stir crazy. But please stay with me. I feel like I don't ask a whole lot Really, Jaden? You just literally pushed that off your desk like a cat.
Why would you push your cat off the desk?
No, you ever watch a cat push something off a table
yeah,
just
my
like
cat
on
did that.
purpose?
My
Yeah,
cat
cats are
pushed it.
jerks. Greta, if I want to try to build a proportion to solve our current question, you know how to do that? We want to know how long it'll take Graham to make $1,000. Sorry, what? Yeah! If the numerator is our money, we can make this numerator whatever we want. But then this denominator we'll figure out based off that numerator. So please fill this in on your paper.
Wait, so that would be x.
Yeah, this would be x or whatever you want. You can make it h or whatever variable you want.
Or I can make it 3.
Now, the one way that we've been doing all year that you might as well keep doing because you should be comfortable with this. If I don't know how to multiply, which I totally don't here, divide backwards. 1,000, grab a calculator, 1,000 divided by 846.
1.18. Repeating.
An ugly number.
118.
Your calculator might be in the wrong setting, actually. Let me come look at your calculator.
20330.
118.20. Okay, that works. It's close.
It's
Now, hold on. Guys, since we're multiplying on the bottom by 1, since I set up the unit rate, this number that you just found, that's your answer.
Oh, that's.
Because when we multiply by 1, that number doesn't change. So hold on. Realistic question. Because on the state test, they like to do this, ask you like, in reality, will 118 hours make him $1,000?
Probably.
No.
Not quite, right? Not quite. So if we wanted to round up, so this is 118.2 whatever, or if we wanted to round, if they said like make your answer a whole number, 119, make sure you label it, hours will have him over $1,000, which is fine because he needs $1,000.
For his New York trip.
Sports gambling. Was that this class that we were talking about yesterday? Oh, the March Madness. We were talking about like investments and things like that, and somebody brought up like making a bet, and we talked about how sports gambling is technically illegal in Ohio. Like, yeah. So
you're illegal? I gotta call the police. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We've heard it. Mr. Hudson.
So what that means is I can't go to the casino and say I bet $1,000 on Duke to win like this game. But people's March Madness bracket things, that's totally separate. So what we're saying is if you go to Vegas, so go to Vegas and you can walk up to the counter and act like an official business. Well, when you're 18, you can place money on like the results of a sporting event. So I'm crazy. I could go to Vegas and say I place $100 on Paul Macbeth to win the disc golf tournament. They'll take any bet for any sporting event. But not in Ohio. We won't do that. Ooh. Shiloh needs your help. You don't remember the Shiloh TV show? Hey guys, I really don't want to have to like lock us down, but we're getting a lot of side conversations happening.
Sorry, Mr.
Shiloh needs your help. He knows that 5 cups of flours will make 2 batches of his cookies. Like 2 recipes. I call them batches, they call them recipes. So if he has 13 cups of flour left in his like cupboard, like he's measured it out, that's the whole bag, how many batches will he be able to make? I want you with your partner, take a couple minutes. I'm going to walk around the room and look for you guys doing this work. Whatever method you want to take, we can cross multiply. We can ask ourselves, what is the scale factor, right? How do we go from left to right? We got a few different ways we can do this. So dive in. Help Shiloh. What is our X here? So we should start by setting up that word. Then we can grab a calculator and do something. So we got to write. Now, I would definitely advise that you do vertical fractions. Don't do the diagonal fractions. When we're doing proportions, I know you wrote that because of the division, but still, I would encourage writing things as vertical fractions. When we're working with fractions, I would encourage you to have your fraction bar flat, not diagonal. I would encourage you to have your fraction bar flat. Cross multiply again here.
Find out what 1 recipe is.
You could. So what would it take for 1 recipe? Yeah. So I mean, we could work from there, but still, does 2.5 nicely go into 13? Not quite. So we'll still have to use our calculator. One of the main reasons we do that, Jalen, what you're talking about, is to avoid using the calculator. If we're gonna have to use the calculator anyways, could we just use 5? Yeah. I mean, so it's up to you. It's just how many steps do you want to take? Yeah. Question. So how are you getting your answers? So I was wondering if this was in science.
No, she first calculated.
Okay, yeah. So perfect. So you understand what's going on. Okay. So it's up here. I don't even know. We got to solve it. So you cross multiply. Let's just work through your work. So you cross multiply, and that's a 26. Okay, barely looks like a 6. And then you do 26 divided by 5, and you got 5.2. And that also makes 5. If I'm being critical, like your numbers are a little loose.
Well, that's how I write. How in the world?
Well, maybe you need to adjust that. I had to adjust my 5s because they all looked like S's.
Yeah, because there's definitely an S in my name.
All right, Ava,
Yes.
will you talk me through this?
Yes.
All right, please give me your attention back.
Okay, first.
Hold up. Your classmates need to come back to us, Ava.
Oh.
Hey, classmates, come back to us.
Can I do this one?
I literally just asked for Ava's help, but you weren't listening, so you didn't hear me. So, Ava, what'd you do?
I cross multiplied.
She cross multiplied. After cross multiplication, what'd you get?
5x and 20 equals 26.
5x equals 26. I'm only color coding.
And then divide by 5.
Divide by 5.
Yeah.
5.2.
And we get
x equals 5.2.
absolutely. Now,
Oh my gosh.
Jalen, did you do this a different way?
No.
I don't.
No, Natalie.
Okay, so I did like.
Actually, hold on. I'm coming back to you. Does anyone have questions on this method? Because otherwise I'm hitting the back arrow and we're doing a different method.
Oh no.
There's so much.
All right, Natalie, talk me through it.
You did the thing.
I do the thingy. I'm going to guess the thingy is the arrow.
Yes.
Aha, okay. Arrow.
And then the arrow says, like, you have to do 13 divided by 5.
So then we do 13 divided by 5 somewhere, probably in our calculator.
That gets 2.6. So
2.6.
You say times 2.6, and on the bottom you say 2 times 2.6. And then 2 times 2.6 is 5.2, which is x.
Questions on this method?
That's also easy.
That's also easy.
Are we gonna have to do that?
No. So, hey, hold up. We got like 8 minutes left. To pull this all back together, because Ava just asked a question that concerns me, I'm not requiring any specific technique. Whatever you're comfortable with, make that choice as you approach the problem. My normal comfort is to take a problem back to the unit rate. Right? And this is what Jalen and I were discussing. Can I take this back to the unit rate? Well, sure, but still, to get to 13 is still messy. So that it doesn't really make sense to do that here. We could. It just doesn't help us. So my normal comfort, I probably wouldn't take that method here. I would probably go a different method. Make sense? Now, Shiloh decides to write out this equation. F equals 2.5 or 2.5 R. F equals 2. What do you think this means? F equals 2.5 R. F equals 2.5 R.
Equals 2.5 recipes. So
So you said the flour is 2.5 times Now wait, does that mean every flour is 2.5 recipes?
No.
So be careful. If this, and guys, I don't know what's going to be on the test, but they like to ask a variety of questions. If they just gave you this equation and said make sense of it, this, and my smart board's going to be angry, this is telling us the amount of flour we need is 2.5 times the recipes. So every recipe uses 2.5 cups of flour, right? Which makes sense because we had 5 cups for 2 recipes. We figured out the unit rate of 2.5 cups of flour. So could he write this, that we have 13 cups of flour, and try to solve for the amount of recipes?
Yes.
What would he do to get the R by itself?
13.
We would divide. Yeah, absolutely, Isaac. So somebody with a calculator, 13 divided by 2.5. You should get, again, 5.2.
Oh, that's what it
So Shiloh took another method. Guys, now we've got a 4th method. But really, this is kind of like the result of cross-multiplying. This is essentially what he got after cross-multiplying. I want you, real quick, we have 4 minutes. I bet you can solve all 4 of these.
Yeah.
Go. And we have more than 4 minutes, but like take 4 minutes, solve these 4. Go. I am guessing. Okay. Not totally fair.
Okay, buddy.
Okay, pal.
When's your birthday? What day?
The last day of April. I'll do the same thing I did to my sister.
31st?
Ha! You did the same thing as my sister.
30th.
Oh, shoot.
30th.
April 31st doesn't exist.
Because May has 31. Oh my god. My mom's birthday.
May doesn't have 31 days either.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Do you guys know the thing, the
That's my
riddle?
mom's
The
birthday.
30
Yeah,
days
birthday.
has September, April, June, and November, all the rest are 31, except for February.
But February doesn't.
You guys should be solving proportions. I'm going to sit and be quiet for a minute and stare at you if you're not solving.
That's crazy.
August.
I did not even.
What's 700 divided by 8?
Wait a minute.
Come on, see, Chloe. What are you eating? You actually, you're not even good at that. I'm gonna be. What is the question?
Yes, they were setting up for it.
There's an ugly number. No, what the hell? That is an ugly number. I'm gonna cry.
Is there an easy way to solve A?
Yes.
Eva. Sorry, I'm still using cards. Eva, is there an easy way to solve A? What relationship do we spot between the denominators? 15 and 5. What about them?
5 times 3.
Yeah, there's a 3 relationship, right? So if I'm going left to right, Riley, what do I do going left to right?
You have to. Hold on. Okay. I just figure out which one was it. Okay. You have to multiply 2 by 3.
Not multiply by 3. We actually have to divide, sorry, not by 2, but we divide by 3.
Oh,
Guys, check your work on your paper. To go from 15 to 5, we actually divide by 3, and 2 divided by 3 is going to be easiest to write as 2/3. Your answer should be 2/3.
I got 3.
If we spot that easy relationship. So you got 3 because 3 is the scale factor.
I got 2.
1.5.
You should not.
Wait, what are we on?
I got 2.
I got
2/3. Guys, your answer, hey, all this murmur concerns the crap out of me because it tells me you did your work wrong.
Hold on. I understand now.
If we just try to go straight through the bottom, 15 to 5, we would have to divide by 3. But if we try to go the other way, we would multiply by 3 because we're not going the other way. We're going left to right, so we would have to divide by 3. If we cross multiply, this would be 10 equal to 15x. What do we divide by?
10.
No.
15.
15.
Oh, you always divide by the x is dumb. Oh my gosh.
You know why you fell in that trap
0.
potentially? You were stuck dividing on the left. We normally divide over here. We got to start our division
So
over
it's
here.
0.6.
It's 0.6 repeating
So that's
forever.
yes, I got it.
2/3 and 0.6 repeating are equal. Shall we?
Okay, so hold on. Okay, so when you're trying to solve, you want to find the scale factor that's
one way to
same
solve it.
That's going towards the x.
Sure. Or you can find it going the other way and then turn it around. So like we're using the same number here because one way is multiplication, one way is division. If we wanted to multiply going left to right, we could, but this would be multiplication by 1/3 if we multiply, right? Because 15 times 1/3 makes 5. We're running out of time, so I just want to show you the answers for B, C, D, and then if you have questions, hey, you don't have to look at them. If you have questions, I want to go over them. So look up at the TV.
What? Oh my gosh.
Hey,
Oh my gosh.
so Ava, instead of reacting so like burst, in your head, ask yourself, oh my gosh, what did I do? Let's figure this out.
No, I already know. It's
I got them all right.
Nice.
I got everyone right except A.
Now, hold up. While you pack up, in B, if we try to find a scale factor going right to left, it's not one. I think it's 12.5.
That's what I said.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I heard you say
He
1.5.
said 12.6.
This would be times 5 left to right, and the bottom's just kind of messy. These just kind of messy. Yeah. Okay, see me later when I can change that. Yes, can't really change it right now. Please do your practice work. Please, please, please.